Hello, hello. Welcome to the AfterBuzz TV Preacher After Show. We are talking about Preacher Season 3, Episode 8, The Tom Brady. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Welcome to the Preacher After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. We are talking about Preacher Season 3, Episode 8, The Tom Brady. I'm your host, Elena Jordan, and joining me today...
I'm Dave Child. Hi, everybody. It's just us two, but we are looking at the chat, so you can talk to us on the chat, and we'll talk back, hopefully.
We'll chat that.
We'll chat back. Chat back. I think we got to start off today with talking a little bit about the last episode and something
and how
we realized.
we were quite incorrect, and nobody corrected us in the chat. So the chat is also there if we say something hopelessly wrong, like we continue to call Hitler when he's actually Hilter.
And the episode was, I think we said like 10 times,
Hitler.
This episode is called Hitler.
Hilter.
And it's Hilter. And we didn't realize it until the very end of this episode when someone
when it was
clearly
said aloud.
Hilter. And
then we all realized the error of our ways. And that's the way we're going to kick off the show.
It was like
so we never have to mention it again.
It was like a Berenstain Bears situation for me. I was like, what? And then I looked back at the opening credits, and every time it showed Hitler's name tag, it says Hilter. And every time I saw it, I thought it said Hitler. And this is the first time it kind of blew my mind.
I think this was less like Mandela effect and more just we're reading what we wanted to read.
I just saw that. And this is not true, Ivan. Ivan says, you ever notice that Nate Miller and Dave Child are never on at the podcast at the same time? Suspicious. It is true we are the same person.
I can neither confirm nor deny that they are indeed the same person.
Yeah. But that's also not true. We have all been together.
Yeah, that is true. So overall, what did you think about this episode?
I thought it was good. It's not my favorite episode of this season because I saw the thing I like most about the season is I felt like it was moving in a steady pace. Something new happened that kept the story going on, and it also felt very natural to the story. It felt like it was something that it was not forced in there. This is the first episode that I kind of saw them kind of treading water a little bit. And I kind of saw the writer's room a bit more. It kind of felt more like, oh, we should do this so the stories can finally come together. It kind of felt like very suspicious. You kind of saw the writer behind it. But I still liked it. It was still a fun episode. I still liked watching it. I feel like I liked how they're bringing everything together. It kind of felt more contrived a little bit.
It's interesting that this is the one you felt was treading water when we've literally seen Jesse treading water.
Well, yeah.
No, you know what I think, though, is the reason that this episode is that way is because up until this point, the episodes that we've enjoyed the most collectively have had very distinct ABC storylines where we've followed storylines that were all somewhat interconnected, but they had three very distinct ones, so they were able to really jump into and deep dive into those. This time we have about 5 that we're actually going through.
I guess so.
So we're going through kind of Jesse and the Grail, Cassidy and Acarius and Hoover, then Grandma and TC, and then Tulip with Jody and Featherstone, and then ultimately Hilter.
Yeah, so you have
you
have Japan,
so
you have Angelville, you have New Orleans, and then you have kind of going down into hell right at the end, kind of trying to tie it into it. So you kind of have
the bus
4.
stop. So you have...
Yeah, you have 4, but it's like, there's still like stories to cut around to, but I guess they felt like...
because you also have the Grail too, so you've got...
Yeah, it also didn't feel like it was a complete arc. There was nothing kind of learned at the end of the episode. It just kind of added... It didn't feel so much like a chapter. It felt like half of a chapter in every single storyline.
I'll give you that. It was a lot of mini storylines being set up, which makes me feel very optimistic for the next 2 episodes.
Right.
So
curious, and I think it's setting up for good episodes, but it just felt more like setup than any of the previous episodes. So
that's true. I will give you that. I will give you that. If I was going to pick out an episode to submit, like for Emmy consideration, this would not be the episode by any means. But this one actually opens up with exactly where we left off last episode, with the elevator doors opening and with kind of the echoing of Star saying,
Right.
you're going to have to kill the All-Father, and seeing Jesse shoot the All-Father, but not kill him,
Yep.
as we were hoping.
Fat protects. Fat protects. This does not mean you could shoot every fat person and they will
Don't
survive.
shoot anyone.
Don't
Just
shoot anyone.
don't-
That's what I'm trying
in
to say.
general.
That's what I'm trying to say. I don't want people coming from this episode and just being like, you could shoot a really fat person and they'll survive. That's not the lesson you should take from Preacher.
I feel like you shouldn't take any lessons
No,
from
don't
Preacher,
take any. Yes,
really.
that is a
If
good
you're,
point.
yeah, this isn't the show to be preaching.
Except maybe there are shades of gray to everyone.
Yeah, I feel like
The more you know.
do.
Perfect.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my favorite parts of this episode, though, was the epic elevator fight scene.
Yeah, it was nice to see a good Jesse Custer fight scene.
Yeah, it's been a kind of a hot minute since we've seen a really good, like,
Yeah.
just Jesse kick ass, and seeing just the brilliant Foley artistry of just seeing the All-Father and seeing Star kind of looking at each other and just hearing all of this stuff.
Yeah, they love to have fights. This is also another thing about this episode. I saw reoccurring jokes and kind of sense of humor kind of come back in this episode, which is nice. They love to have huge fights happen and then cut outside of the fight as the fight is happening, just like outside of it. They also love to have people appear and then die, like appear and die, appear and die. And they got to do that like the previous seasons. It was with the Angels, and this time it was with Humperdoo. But you got to see like the fun with the fight, the elevator doors opening and the guy just standing there not being a part of the fight at all. That felt like a very Preacher joke that we've seen.
I love that. The cheese man, which was like
Yeah.
literally like a cheesy joke that he's literally just carrying
He's just
cheese.
carrying cheese. I didn't even notice that.
Yes, I was like, all right,
Yeah.
I see you. I see you. That felt more Goldberg than Rogen to me, but
Yeah,
either
yeah,
way,
yeah.
I was like, brilliant. Brilliant. It's just like a little bit too meta where you have to think about it for just a second. And you're just
Right.
like, ah!
You also get to see Hair Star in a different way than we've seen him before, because he's usually such a badass. And this time around you saw that he was scared of someone, and you saw that he also didn't want to do the dirty work, which is not the Hair Star we're used to. We're like used to seeing him go up and kill, like he got his position because he killed the superior before him in the previous season. And this time he doesn't want to kill the Allfather, probably because he knows he's very kind of hard to kill. So
Yeah.
in case he misses, he doesn't want to be the one to do it, and he still wants to be in the good grace of the Allfather.
And we also now know that Jesse's soul is up the Allfather's
But
bottom.
yeah, which you could tell as soon as he said like it's in a safe place. I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
I
it's
was like,
definitely up his
oh.
butt. Oh, it's definitely up his butt.
But I like that they point blank are like,
Yeah, I just like how as soon as he said it's in a safe place, I'm like, it's up his butt. And then when Hairstar says, where is he keeping it? And then Hairstar says it's up his butt. I'm like, good. I'm glad we're all on the same
we're
page.
all on the
there.
same page. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Hairstar is less of a badass, and
Well, he's
we
got
know that Jesse's soul
everyone's
is
got a
in
boss.
an ass.
Everyone's got a
so-
boss with a soul up their ass. So, it's,
Do they?
yes.
Everyone.
I'm pretty sure that's
Okay.
a t-shirt that I've seen
Yeah,
frequently.
that's true. And the Allfather just pulling out the bullet with his chopsticks.
I know.
And then continuing to eat with them. I'm like, oh God, I can't wait until he's just gone. He's so gross.
Yeah, I was happy to see this wasn't how he went out, because I want him to be around a bit more. But I think by the end of the season, I don't think he's going to last by the end of the season. We'll see. But we did get to see for one, he knows how to take Genesis out. But
Yeah,
what's
we saw his
interesting,
Genesis machine and his whole, basically his preaching of the
Yeah.
secret of religion being science and how they've cloned Humperdoo.
yeah,
But this is what's interesting too, is we get to see Jesse truly believes that he is chosen, that he has
Yeah.
this mission. He has this whole speech, and you can tell that it's not just him preaching, even though, they even make kind of the joke
Well,
about
he's
it.
preaching, but it's a real belief.
But it's a
there.
real, true.
It was nice because I felt like I saw a little bit of more of the Jesse I want to see. Because Jesse sometimes in previous seasons has been hemming and hawing a lot of like what he believes and what he doesn't believe, and that's why he's able to have Genesis, is because he's in a gray area between equal parts good and bad. Mm-hmm. But still, you want to have this hero character who's able to practice what he preaches, and you were able to see the preacher in him finally come out and not being like used for the dungeon or whatever was the tombs. The tombs was the last time we got to really see the preacher side of Jesse come out, but it was good to see it in this context.
But what's rough is I do love this whole quote is that they're saying that they have all of these resources and they have these weapons, and he says, I have something better than weapons and resources: faith. I have the impossible, impenetrable belief that I have been chosen, that Genesis belongs to me.
Yeah.
But now they're bringing out all of these Humperdoos and they're trying all of these genetic alterations, and he's finding out that there actually is a scientific component behind it that can be replicated, which means he's not really the chosen one. He is...
Well, it's interesting. It brings up a good question because there is a sense of... I think the show and the story and even the comic was about... Is there like the idea that there's a grand plan is kind of ridiculous, and it plays to the idea of like whether there's a grand plan or not, believing that there is or isn't. Is there and kind of how free will kind of butts up against it. And I think that's what's kind of even happening in this silly scene where we're exploding a bunch of Humperdoos. It's still like, this is what people think is the answer to the Messiah, but it seems completely silly that this is the Messiah. And the idea that maybe there's a way to make it so you could still make this the Messiah. I don't know. They bring up questions that are like interesting, and why I kind of like the show and the questions that they bring up all the time. I also love the idea that the combination of the perfect balance of good and evil seems to be Thomas Jefferson and Wayne Brady.
I like all the series, though, that they go through of all of the various kind of combinations. Yeah. And before we dive into some of the various combinations, I know we have a variety of different shows here on AfterBuzz TV as well.
That's how we're transitioning?
That's how we're transitioning.
I was going to say, hey, listen, we all have an All-Father, and to our All-Father, I want to say, hey, AfterBuzzers, our network produces after shows for nearly all of your favorite TV shows, from dramas, reality TV, sci-fi, and more. There is no network that works harder to serve television fans. But we need your help. We're asking that you please subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels. By subscribing to our channel, YouTube will suggest content that's tailor-made for you, and you'll help AfterBuzz continue to grow. And if you're worried about our pesky notifications, don't be. That's stupid. You're an idiot for worrying about that, because they're optional. So hit the subscribe button now and for this channel, and check out our AfterBuzz YouTube channel, and let us know you did so in the comments, and we'll thank you on air. We'll keep an eye out for that.
And we don't think you're an idiot.
We don't. But for now, thanks for being the best fans and for helping us be the ESPN of TV Talk. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, one thing that's kind of cool, too, is that they bring out Dr. Slotnick, who is creating all of these various cocktails.
Yeah.
And Jesse makes
what
a
are the
super witty
cocktails that they go
bartender.
Through?
They go through a few, but I did just want to say, very excited that next week, Karen Strassman, who plays Dr. Slotnick, is going to be here on the show.
Yeah.
So be sure to tune in next week.
Tune in and turn up.
Because Karen Strassman, Dr. Slotnick herself, will be here, so we can ask about a variety of different combinations. Let me see. I wrote some of them down because they had just a bunch that they were going through. Serena Williams and Louis the 16th was the one that ended up not working. Which I'm really excited to have Karen in the studio, too, because she was so good in this episode. She was so funny.
I also love how I think they were... It is a question about whether, because people are asking in the chat, which part of the Tom Brady combination is good and which is the other is bad. I don't think it's necessarily a good person and a bad person. It's just like they each have qualities to have it. And I love that the combo, at being from New England myself, that the combo is Tom Brady, because Tom Brady is like kind of a good example of someone who, if you're a Patriots fan, you're like, he's great because he does a lot and he makes our team win. But there's a lot of qualities that are just like, maybe that's not so great.
Same thing with Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, same thing with John. But Wayne Brady?
And Wayne Brady. That
is there
one
any
just,
evil
like,
to Wayne Brady?
This is...
Maybe there's an
like there
evil we
isn't.
don't know about.
I can't imagine any sort of seedy underbelly to Wayne Brady.
Maybe
I feel like
Preacher
he's just
knows
great.
something about Wayne Brady we don't know. I like to see that. But yeah, Thomas Jefferson definitely kind of fits that quality. But you think Thomas Jefferson would just be enough? That he's kind of a good combination of good and evil in himself. So,
Well, you
need
can't
a bit
just
more Wayne
put
Brady.
Thomas Jefferson into Humperdoo, I guess.
know,
they
I know.
have to,
They need to
make
figure out
some sort of balance.
a good pun.
But I do love that they call it the Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. And yeah, and I love that this kind of desperate plea that Jesse has, where he's like, "Look, this is our last chance," because Stars put this gun with a silencer in Jesse's pocket, but Jesse is hooked up to this gurney that is extracting Genesis from him and returning it time and time and time again, which also probably doesn't feel great.
I also think it's interesting that they killed, because they actually made it successful, and then they killed Humperdoo again. And do you think that's just so that they can make sure that Genesis will they'll be able to control the flow of Genesis?
I actually think it's just because that was the clone and they want the true Messiah.
Oh, interesting.
Is
so these
what
are
I
the
think it
clones
is.
that they were
These are the
testing
clones
on.
that because then we see them inject them. So I think they cloned just all the same Humperdoos, but they have them as backup Humperdoos that they've just
But
made
they're
a
not
whole
the
bunch.
real-
But they're not the actual Messiah. So when they find the right combination, then they get rid of that one. Like, to them, it's like harvesting organs, basically.
That actually explains a lot, because I was a little confused about that, because one of the reasons why I like Humperdoo is the idea that they had to cause a lot of incest in order to create Humperdoo.
The one true
Humperdoo. And if you're bringing in clones, I'm like, that doesn't make sense, because that kind of goes against that whole incest thing. But the way you brought it up, where there is still one true one, the rest are just clones. They're
They're testers.
Yeah, that
Because
makes sense.
unlike the angels who coax out these with lullabies, they're going to forcefully take it out and use science to inject it
Right.
to then test, knowing that if they kill their one true Messiah, then they're screwed.
Yeah.
So they just have these as backups, which we even hear Dr. Slatnik say, because Jesse's like, "You're going to run out of Humperdoos," and she's like, "I doubt that." So we know somewhere there's a warehouse of an insane amount
Of Humperdoos.
of Humperdoos.
Yeah. Is there going to be an army of Humperdoos at some point? I kind of hope there
A
will be.
Humperdoo army.
Oof.
I also love too when the Allfather's like, "Where did you hear that horrid name?" And
know.
Star's slapping him, and it's like, "Oh, so Humperdoo is just what you guys call him.
Yeah, I think it
everyone
is.
else calls him Messiah. You guys are like."
Well, it's because he likes to say it a lot. It's a lot like Hodor.
Yeah, I
I
guess
think
that's true.
they just kind of name him what he keeps
He's like his
saying
own
a lot.
Pikachu.
Yeah.
Hodor, Pikachu. There's a lot of those. Groot.
Yeah. If you want your own name, just say one word over and over
Say it
again.
over and over, and you're fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, even at this point, we still see Jesse saying, Genesis is just for me. Genesis it chose me.
Mm-hmm.
It is meant for me. And then he says that he's going to find God and hold him accountable.
Right.
And the Allfather is just saying, this was a mistake. And he's like, "No, I'm not a mistake. I'm a mistake who's going to find God.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be a mistake, this is my one true mission." And then instead, this Humperdoo
you
Tom
also
Brady combo works. We
Yeah.
see Jesse bow down when he says to bow down to him.
You see that Jesse has more faith in himself than he does with this sort of religion or ideology, which is, I think, kind of why I'm liking this Jesse that we're finally seeing, is because that faith in himself is what we kind of want. And we want more of that. We want like a confident Jesse. And I feel like we're heading more and more in that direction. So that should be good.
Yeah, I like the confident Jesse too, because when he has a plan, it makes me less fearful for everyone involved.
Although his weakness is his friends. And one thing we do see is a little messages back and forth.
Yes. So Cass, as we know, the Grail has been kind of trying to see if they can, specifically, not even the Grail, but Hoover, Featherstone, and Star, who have become this little trifecta.
Yeah.
These usurping trifecta.
This kind of I don't know, rebel alliance within the Grail. Yeah.
I love it.
And Hoover was been after Cass and trying to get Cass in order to gain some kind of not collateral, but something to hold against Jesse in order to kind of to sway him if he needs it to get his friend. But he's been harder to capture than they first thought. I love this moment of Hoover being like, I'm gonna be the one vampire hunter who does this, and then immediately getting caught.
Well, it's interesting too that we see Cassidy introduced in this kind of swaying a little bit against Icarius already, because when he gets in the car, he's asking about Lisa, and he says, I've been texting Lisa. Lisa doesn't answer, and he's like, well, it's still early in Spain, and like, this is when he's like, something's up because you sent her to Poland.
Yeah.
And so this is when we first start to see the little seeds of doubt being planted. But then, of course, it cuts immediately into Hoover, like with his Buffy style, like case and his light and everything. Just getting, which, man, the way they shot that in the next episode on last week made it seem like he was going to blast all these vampires out and be this epic badass.
Yeah.
And they definitely threw us for a loop.
I like that. I like it when they do stuff like that to kind of like, it makes it so seeing the next week on doesn't feel like it's totally spoiling it. Like we also saw, Allfather get shot, but that doesn't mean anything. No. When we see something that dramatic, it's like, that doesn't actually happen.
You're like, that's going to happen in the very beginning.
Yeah,
or
there's going to be some sort
There's going to be some sort of retcon where, they take it back. But yeah, I do love this. Like, and then also just the differences. And later on, after this episode, we'll talk about the differences in the comics and the episode itself. We don't want to spoil anything for people who haven't read the comics. But just hearing Icarius use words like your pernicious influences, I'm like, wow, this is a very different character.
Yeah. But also, it's a very confident character. And I like this Icarius who's like, I got the sense from him, from this episode, that he plans on telling Cass eventually how to get power, how the actual way to get powers. And he talks about, what aren't you telling me? He's like, I'll tell you. Don't worry, I have to tell you later. He has to he knows that in order to kind of reveal this kind of dark side of this vampire abilities, he's going to have to do it in time. He's going to have to try to pace it out, but it's not going to wait. We kind of knew that this was going to come out this episode, but before that happens, we get Vampire Hoover.
Well, we also, because we have this whole text exchange first where Star, and this was hilarious too, is where he's saying, we have Hoover holding all of these signs saying, help, they're going to kill me. And he's texting back and forth, and he's like, kill him.
Kill him, I don't care.
He's like, that's an autocorrect. Like, that's a mistake. Like, it's not right. And he's like, kill him. He's an idiot.
Yeah.
He's like, just go ahead.
And forth that it's like, no.
But I love Icarius using that whole morality in that moment, which is, I think, what becomes so hypocritical and what makes Cass feel so betrayed, is that he says, doesn't he deserve a choice like all of us? Doesn't he deserve the choice to not choose death, but choose life forever as a vampire, as we have chosen?
When really we kind of we know as the audience, he's just using him to get another...
To get more powers.
To get more power. And
that this is a completely selfish thing,
move.
And that he's completely lying to Cass and betraying him in this moment.
I feel like his little fan base, they've got to be like, why does this guy jump ahead in the line? He's like jumping it right ahead in the line. We're all been waiting to become vampires. And this guy is able to kind of come in and become a vampire right away. But they didn't really have any of that moment.
No. I do like Kevin when he's offering suggestions of how to kill him, and he's like, Wickerman style bees.
Wickerman, yeah, that was a great conversation. Because like, where are you going to get bees? Are you a beekeeper? He's like, yeah, I'm actually a beekeeper.
He's like, oh, I didn't know that, Kevin. That's actually a great idea. Yeah, let's go with the bees.
Yeah. And you
good job, Kevin.
You got to see a little bit of the gray area with Cass, too, where he's like, no, we should kill him. We should, like, let's bring on the bees. Let's kill him this way. We're gonna kill him. And it's interesting that that's actually how he starts in the beginning, because you see when Cass says, is this how you get all the powers later, when he finds the neck pillow, the bloody neck pillow, with the, like, you gotta get rid of your bloody neck pillows in a better way.
Yeah, you can't just toss them in the trash. Come on, man.
After about probably 100...
You live in a vampire commune, you gotta like start cleaning up your mess, at least leave it at the side of the road.
But I think
dump all that crap out of the car.
Yeah, after 100 of these, he probably gets a little sloppy after a while. So
can't get sloppy, man.
I mean, just don't kill hundreds of people, and then you won't get sloppy. Just kill. No. Don't kill anyone.
Again, don't take any lessons from Preacher or the Preacher after
show.
Don't
take any lessons. We don't think you're an idiot, and don't kill anyone.
Yeah,
those are the big lessons to take from it. But when he does discover this, it's interesting because we had that moment where Cass is like, "Oh, we can kill him this way," and this reveal kind of shows that Cass isn't really bothered by the morality of killing him. He's bothered by the fact that he's been lied to.
Yeah, that's what I think it is it's basically just this betrayal. And also because I think he really liked Lisa.
Yeah.
I think he actually doesn't really care about Hoover, but he did care about Lisa. And he feels betrayed that he would tell him that Lisa is off somewhere, basically like, when your dog goes off to a field when but instead of just, he passed peacefully, it's like they ate him for powers, then it's a little bit more.
And you also have this nice moment where I feel like even in this short amount of time, like Cass starts to like Hoover because he's like, well, are you welcome to this world of darkness? And he's like, wait, no sun at all?
No sun at all? No walks on the beach?
No, man, I mean, umbrellas. You're going to be using a lot of umbrellas. And he gives him that umbrella hat.
The umbrella hat. He's like, first of many.
Like, first of many. And he also has this moment. He's like, this is your second chance. Don't be a dick. And I think that's a really nice moment. And then also Hoover's like, hey, you're a nice guy to Cass.
Yeah, and you're a good guy.
You're a good guy.
And I think Cass needs to hear that he's a good guy, and he needs to hear it from someone that he thinks is a good guy.
Yeah, and he has a hard time believing that. There's a lot of self-hate with Cass, as well as there is with Icarius, which is kind of why you feel like he's going down this path.
But he can discredit somebody making him feel like a good person if he feels like the person saying that is not a good person. Yeah. So that's why I think he takes this extra hard. Is that it's less about Hoover specifically and more about just what all of it represents.
Right. And we see the storyline end with, in this episode, with the confrontation of Icarius and Cass. He gets knocked out, and Hoover runs away. Yeah. So now we have a vampire Hoover out there who's very new to his abilities. It hasn't really kicked in yet. It's the bloodlust is going to come. It's going to be interesting to see what baby vampire Hoover is going to do. And this is also a great new wrinkle to Hoover, because I love Hoover. I think the actor is so good, and it's great to see him kind of be this great comic relief all the time and kind of bumbling through this Grail mission stuff. And they just found a new thing for him to bumble through, which is just his becoming a vampire. And is he still going to be devoted to the Grail, but as a vampire? Is he going to like branch off from the Grail? Is he gonna? He's still. I think.
The Grail basically flat out was like kill him. So I feel like
that's true. But he also has a connection with Featherstone still. I guess I don't quite know. Is he in love with Featherstone or not?
I don't think he is.
I don't think he is.
No, I don't think so. I think it's just that he just likes to feel like he belongs in this. Yeah.
I'll be curious to see how he interacts with the Grail after this point. So.
But I like that basically Cass tells him you're going to be dreaming about these umbrellas all the time because
Yeah.
you're going to be seeing so many umbrellas. Meanwhile, Grandma is having some crazy dreams.
Saw that transition coming too. That was like, oh, bringing up dreams.
It's happening. But no, this was actually a really, really cool thing because this got me at the beginning. I thought that when they were like, oh, they're back from Osaka, I was like, we're not going to see it again.
So angry.
I was so mad. I was like, this is the second heist that we're not going to see.
And I feel like maybe that's why we didn't see the first heist, because they wanted to make us think
To
we're
hype
going
it
to
for
be
this one
missing.
and then pull the rug out from underneath us, because it definitely worked. I was so pissed.
It worked for a second, and then I was kind of like, oh wait, they're talking weird. And the fact that Featherstone is shot and we're not going to see it. They're either going to go back to the heist and we're going to eventually see it in like flashbacks.
Yeah, I'm like, if she's just like dead and that's it, and we don't see any of this, I'm going to be livid.
Yeah,
but then we
so
see Grandma go to the door and Sabina saying that she's waiting, and basically see Grandma freak out. We see her star be scared.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing Grandma and what she is truly fearful of, which is going presumably
dying.
back to hell. Because
I don't think it's back to hell. I think it's actually just to hell. Judging from the conversation she has, first, like, she picks up the phone and then the devil walks in the door. I love that. I love that just happened. I love that, like, we know who the devil is. We've had this great introduction.
That the phone that she picks up, this is the one that Tulip picked up episodes back when the exact same thing, answered the same way. What do you want? And we didn't get an explanation of who was on the phone or what that was. And now we know
it was straight to
the devil.
Yeah.
And the only reason that I know that it's back to hell is because the producers were talking about it. And they said that she goes back to hell because it's presumed that she made her...
Oh, I didn't get that from this episode. For what I got from this episode... If that's what they're talking about, they did actually a bad job of it, because I felt like
I think they'll probably explain that a little more.
Yeah,
well.
I felt like, to me, it felt like she had made a deal with the devil that she would become this. From the conversation, it sounded like she'll be able to eat souls. She'll be able to take and live for a very long time. But the deal is, when she dies, she goes to hell.
Exactly.
So I didn't know
but
if
the
it
thing
was like,
is I think it was because he says you're having bad dreams again.
Yeah.
I think she's been in this predicament before, and she had to go make different arrangements or figure something out. Or
I also feel like those dreams are prophetic. Like, I feel like those are going to come true. I think that's why she's scared of them.
Yeah.
Because she knows what they mean. When she has dreams like that, it isn't just her subconscious going crazy.
It's that she's close to the brink, which I think is why he says again, is because this is something that she has experienced before, and she now is saying she's going to make this new deal, and she asks about Jesse.
Apparently, Ivan Soto's saying, too, to back up what you said, the producers were saying, that the actor who plays TC also confirmed that inside the episode. The kind of like behind the thing. So she is going back to hell. I just didn't get it from the actual
Yeah. She's going back to hell.
Back to hell.
But so, yeah, she calls Jesse a spoiled, selfish, vengeful little boy who has something you might really want.
Yeah.
So now Grandma's telling the devil that Jesse is Genesis.
Which is huge.
This is big.
That's huge. And I it's interesting because when she found out about Genesis, we were wondering what she's going to do with that information. I kind of assumed, before I knew she was literally in league with Satan, that she was going to try and manipulate Jesse as much as Hair Star's trying to manipulate Jesse and kind of use him for power. And I did not assume she was going to use that information.
I didn't think that she was going to go to the devil by any means. And I definitely didn't think that she was going to make a deal with the devil to get Tulip just out of vengeance.
Well, I think it's because she sees Tulip as she still wants Jesse. She still wants Jesse. She still wants to have Jesse in league with her. And she sees the only obstacle is Tulip. So in order to do that, we have the Angel of Death being sent after Tulip.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
The royal bitch Tulip.
Yeah.
I want you to drag her down and feast on her. It's like, geez, Grandma, you're intense.
Yeah. She's a bad one. I think that's why, like, the devil's like, you're good. I like you.
Yeah, that's why devil. Because basically, they were talking about inside the episode too, is that there's this girl that we're presuming is a young woman when she goes to the
Right.
devil, who's not afraid of him, who's here to make a deal with him, and is just as cold-hearted and as kind of evil as
Oh.
they can come.
So when she goes, so inside, I didn't miss the inside of the episode, obviously, but I'm curious if, like, did she actually die when you were saying go back to hell? I thought that meant she died earlier, and I got the feeling she hasn't
I
died
don't think
yet.
she's died.
Okay,
I think
that's
she
what I
just
was-
went to go make like the deal with the devil.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Is
to
that
me.
it's like,
Yeah,
she's like, hey, what up? I don't give a shit that you're the devil. This is what I want.
Yeah, that makes more sense that she ended up going to the office of hell in
Yeah.
order to like make the deal. I thought you were saying that she had died before.
No, I don't
and
think
came
that
back.
she died. I think it's that
So
she
she's
went
not-
to hell, but
yeah.
she now knows if she goes back, it's that it's
She's
to
there.
be, yes, it's
She's-
to be tortured. That is where,
Here's your bed. Here's yeah.
yes, that's where she will end up, and that's
Yeah.
where she will be.
Okay, cool.
Meanwhile, Tulip, being the one weakness, is now in Osaka trying
Yeah.
to get the only strength that Grandma has, which is all of these souls, which we now know we're actually going to see this heist. Thank goodness.
I mean, yeah, thank goodness. But also, this was another weak point of the episode where it's not that much of a heist.
I
Like,
thought there was going to be a little bit more, especially with the hype up of with like security being so tight in the dream, and then it being not really that much.
Yeah, and
like
it
Jody
ca-
takes out the 3 security guys. I like the little montage of them putting on their like kind of tactical gear, but it was
but that all happens
ultimately
off screen.
yeah.
I do like the sexual harassment seminar.
That I thought
really
was
great.
really, really well done. And I liked Featherstone just basically being like, yeah, there are other ways that we could have done this, but I just wanted to make you grab that
Grab his
guy's ass.
And also, it was a great payoff later where you see the Angel of Death in the lobby. Because one of the things they say in the sexual harassment thing is like, we've been getting so many
29 complaints.
29 complaints from the lobby alone. So just having this Angel of Death like in the lobby and then immediately get sexually harassed like right away, I thought that was perfect. That was
I
really,
did love that. I thought that was really, really brilliantly
Yeah.
done. And the tie-in of Tulip waiting in the car and be like, wait, putting her gum in, and she's like, my character chews gum. Your character has an ugly nose. Let's go rob this bitch.
Yeah.
Like just
She's able
and then
to use the gum.
ultimately, yeah, use the gum to after
short circuit.
Yeah. Well, we see her get basically like fried away, like jolted back from the electricity of I guess
Yeah.
it's an electric door.
It's an electric door, so you can't just pick it. And that's what Featherstone knew, so that's why she was trying to hack into it. And then somehow Tulip knew if you threw gum and metal at the door and connected the door with the door frame, it'll short circuit. Bit of a
It's a little bit of a stretch, but you know,
X gum machina, but like, you know, they were able to. We kind of went along with it.
I'm into it. It didn't bother me.
At least I think what Tulip does is try something and kind of throw it at and see what happens.
Yeah.
So
And we also see while that's going on that the devil is sending Sydney out for Tulip, who then gets
Right.
to the office, but you know, just a little bit too late.
yeah, and we have the switch up on the plane afterwards.
Yes. Now this I really like too is that she still has the Hiroki Matsukata ID,
Right.
and she's like, "No, my name's Hiroki Matsukata." And then
But the Angel of
The
Death
Angel
didn't
of
get
Death
a
is
better
like-
description than has brown hair.
Brown. Well, this is the thing is the devil didn't really give much of a description because he's very familiar with Jesse, but up until this point, he doesn't really know much about Tulip. So this is Grandma saying this is what
guess.
she looks like, and then this is third party relaying.
Yeah.
Is that this is what she's gonna look like. This is where she's gonna be.
They need to be better with the information with the in hell. But then
You would think like hell would at least have like a flip phone or like something.
Right.
Like I mean.
it's not. It was smart of Tulip to turn it on to Featherstone, but it turns out Featherstone has all of the souls.
And Featherstone's
going
being
back.
a jackass. Like that's the thing is if
Yeah.
she hadn't have like made a joke, basically being like you have like you're of some value.
Yeah.
It's
And then-
like so mean. Where she's like, you know, nice job. Seriously, I'm a fan. You haven't screwed anything up. She's like, thanks.
Yeah, and then we see it goes
screw
straight
up.
to it goes. This is how we connect back to Arseface, and we got Hilter at the bus stop, And I love this
Yeah.
like bus stop reveal, the bus stop big like text that comes over.
They do that all the time where they'll have like just a little bit of the scene and then they have the location, but
the
it's
location
always
just being bus stop.
bus stop.
Was great.
Yeah. And I really liked too that we see, much like Jesse, is that Arseface even more dedicated. I feel bad calling him Arseface at this point. Eugene.
I mean, it's also his name.
Yeah,
it's
legit.
okay.
But he is just completely believing that there is a master plan and that he
Yeah.
is a part of some bigger plan and that there has to be a reason for this.
I'm curious to see where that
And
goes.
yeah, and so it's interesting that we're seeing
I
this
also-
whole background of him, like trust in God, that's what the Bible says. And then Sydney shows up with Featherstone, the souls.
Yeah, and we also get a sense of that it's with Hilter. We also see kind of what I wanted them to do, and it looks like we're actually going to get it because it cuts to who he sends a text to. And it's someone listening to talk radio. Kind of sounds like conservative talk radio if you listen to it with closed captions on.
Yeah.
It's
Basically talking about people disrespecting the flag, disrespecting the
feels
president.
very like alt-righty. You see someone, and I noticed on my second time watching the ending, he actually does have a Nazi tattoo on his wrist, and he says, "Oh, they got Hilter." So you can sense that. I think what's going to happen next episode is we're going to get like a bunch of people stopping that bus from leaving, and a bunch of them might be neo-Nazis.
It might be a bus stop at that bus stop.
We have very little time. But we're going to sign off real quick.
Well, before we do, I do want to just get kind of your last thoughts on this episode.
Okay. I mean it's good, but I feel like it's treading a little water. Like I feel I'm curious about where it's gonna go, but I liked
let's
it
roll
overall.
into a couple quick predictions here, because we'll just AfterBuzz TV predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV.
Because we see a little bit on the next week on. We don't really get too much information going into it, so I'm interested to see where they're going to take this one. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see some neo-Nazis. I think we're going to see the All-Father. Maybe he's not going to survive by the end of that episode. I'm curious to see what happens with him.
I'm interested to see if we see a Star Hoover meet up
And
in
what-
the interaction.
And you bringing up that there is one Humperdoo. Really, there's a bunch of clones, but they only have one real Humperdoo. He's kind of maybe in trouble too. And I'm curious to see what happens with him. And I hope Arseface gets free and figures out something.
Yeah, I do love Eugene.
Yeah.
Well, we do want to give everybody the opportunity. If you have not read the comics, we're going to say farewell now so that you can sign off. But if you have read the graphic novels and you want to stick around and you want us to talk about it, please do. In the meantime, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at davechild.com or mrdavechild on Twitter or Instagram, because I'm Dave Child.
And you guys can find me on Twitter at Alana Jordan and on Instagram at that Alana Jordan Girl. And if you're going to be in Hawaii at the end of August, I'm going to be at Amazing Comic-Con Aloha. So check that out. Tickets are on sale now. So this is your last spoiler alert.
Get out,
Spoiler alert.
get out,
Spoiler
get out,
alert.
get out, get out, get out.
Woo! We're going to talk about some comics and some differences here.
Yeah.
So we've been seeing basically with kind of Cass's whole storyline, the differences there with Icarius
Right.
and how this, instead of being basically kind of like an idiot that's being,
kind of a poser.
yeah, kind of just like a weird like
the comics.
MySpace emo-y type kid. I guess now more adapted for our times, but
He's like a real vampire.
yeah, and he's intelligent, which I think is what lures Cass in, which makes sense
Right.
for our version of Cass that we've seen. Like,
But-
he would need somebody that he feels like he can gather something from.
And he's also lonely, which is also
very
something
lonely.
that Cass identifies with. But also something that's much different than the comics is I don't think we have Vampire Hoover from the comics.
We don't. And this is what's a big thing that I'm really interested in where they're going to go, because now this is a pretty big plot twist to have somebody in the Grail or a Grail usurper now be turned as a vampire.
Yeah.
And have somebody who's in with whichever Messiah, be it Humperdoo or, as we know, Humperdoo. When do you think he's going to get
I don't know if Humperdoo's now they have a bunch of Humperdoos.
I think he's going to get crushed. I think they're still going to do it. I think they're going
hope
to do the
that
one
they
true
get-
Humperdoo, and I think the Allfather's going to.
I hope the Allfather crushes him, but I kind of want the Allfather to fall a great distance and that for him to die that way. So they're in a office building, so they could fall off. Okay, now we got to wrap. We got to get out of here because they're yelling at us in the booth. But there's a lot more to talk about, and we'll talk about it more next week, and we'll have our special guest next week,
Yes,
too.
be sure to tune in next week because we will have a very, very special guest. Dr. Slotnick herself, Karen Strassman, will be here, and we'll be here too with the rest of the crew. So
Thanks for joining us.
see you guys next week.
Man.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
The views expressed herein are those of the host.
See you
only and do not
later.
necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners.